Okay. Chairman Cruz, Ranking Member Cantwell, Chairman Moran, Ranking Member Duckworth, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here today to discuss our investigation of the Midair collision that occurred just over a year ago near Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. As we discuss NTSB's thorough fact-finding, extensive analysis, and comprehensive safety recommendations, I want to make one thing abundantly clear. We should not be here today. In this room, sitting with us or watching online, are family members of the 67 people who died on January 29th. We are so sorry for your loss. You should not have to be here because, as I've said many times, this was 100% preventable. It was preventable. In fact, now that our investigation has concluded, I can say without a shadow of a doubt that we've seen this before. We've investigated similar mid-air collisions going back decades, and we've issued safety recommendations like ADSB in over and over and over again, aimed at preventing just these kinds of collisions. Recommendations that have been rejected, sidelined, or just plain ignored. As Chairman Cruz and Congressman Onder recently wrote, last year's crash was not an isolated incident. It was the fatal result of years of unheeded warnings. Years. 57 years ago, in 1969, we investigated a mid-air collision between Allegheny Airlines Flight 853 and a small Piper Cherokee outside Shelbyville, Indiana. 83 people died. Soon after, the board held a hearing and issued 14 recommendations aimed at preventing future mid-air collisions, including our first ever recommendation for FAA to expeditiously develop and implement a collision avoidance system in all civil aircraft. For perspective, that same year, we put a man on the moon. And yet it took another 2 decades and a congressional mandate for FAA to finally implement TCAS. TCAS didn't prevent this accident, but there are technologies that are readily available that could have. If I could pull up my slide, while that's coming up, with ADSB in, and what maybe I'll give it a second. With ADSB in, hopefully it'll come up. Little technical difficulties. I'll continue on, and when it comes up, I'll explain. With ADSB in...
I don't do the AB.
Yeah, me too. There we go. So on the left side is the PAT 25, and on the right side is Flight 5342. We did a laser scan of exemplar aircraft, and so the gray around is the structure, and then of course you see the night vision goggles on the left side. With ADSB in, the helicopter pilots would have gotten an audible alert if it was in their headset at 48 seconds prior to collision when they were over Haines Point, allowing them to take action. They never got a single alert. They had no idea that that 5342 was coming from the left. And we can talk about that in the hearing if you'd like. On the right side, outside, looking out of 5342, the CRJ would have gotten their first alert with ADSB in at 59 seconds prior to collision. Instead, they got a TCAS alert that just said, traffic, traffic. And what they need to do is look out and figure out where that traffic is and take action, which is very difficult to see in many circumstances, and we can talk about why that is too. But traffic, 19.5 seconds prior to collision. They didn't actually recognize that the helicopter was there until 1 second. 1 second prior to collision. Had they gotten ADSB in, they would have gotten something more along the lines of traffic, 12 o'clock, 2 nautical miles, 500 feet below. Then they could have taken action. What we're talking about here is life-saving information for pilots. It's information. In 2008, we again called on the FAA to implement ADSB in. We stated the Safety Board believes that the benefits of ADSB technology warrant rapid adoption, and that the equipage of aircraft with ADSB in capability will provide an immediate and substantial contribution to safety, underline, especially in and around airports. We said that in 2008. What if the FAA had acted? I want to be clear, though. What happened at DCA could happen anywhere in our airspace. The NTSB has for years, long before this tragedy at DCA, been sounding the alarm about the safety risks of see and avoid. Yet we continue to rely on see and avoid to separate traffic throughout the national airspace when technology is available to provide pilots with the situation awareness they need and deserve to ensure safety. See and avoid is exactly what it sounds like. A pilot has to visually acquire an approaching aircraft, recognize a collision course, decide on action, execute the control movement, and allow the aircraft to respond in a matter of seconds. Since 2008, we've investigated 211 aviation accidents and incidents resulting from a mid-air collision or loss of separation, which killed 281 people and injured 12 others. In almost half, we raised concerns with see and avoid. These include many in your home states, and I know not all the senators are here, but I'm going to pretend they are, because we investigated since 2008, where we stated our concerns, 16 in Texas, 1 in Kansas, 15 in Alaska, including the 2019 tragedy in Ketchikan, where 6 people died and 10 were injured, and I was the board member on scene, and we discussed at length in that report the lack of ADSB-in requirements for Part 135. 2 in North Carolina, 1 in Missouri, 2 in Utah, 1 in Ohio, 1 in Wyoming, 1 in Michigan, 2 in Wisconsin, 1 in Illinois, 12 in Nevada, 7 in Colorado, 2 in Pennsylvania, 4 in New Jersey, and now 1 in DC. The fact is, our aviation system is the safest in the world for a reason. Thanks to the work of you all, the work of the entire Congress, our work at NTSB, the work of our partners at FAA, redundancy has been built into the system to prevent catastrophe, but that doesn't mean system flaws don't exist. Our aviation system is complex. The national airspace system is complex, but it is generally safe, which means many, many things have to go wrong for a tragedy like this to occur. And we have an obligation to fix those vulnerabilities. The question before us is how many more people need to die before we act? How many more people need to die before we act? I've heard others say it can't be done, it's too expensive, the technology isn't available, the risk is only at DCA. None of that is true. Absolutely none of it. The technology is available with an iPhone or an iPad, a headset, this is mine, and a cable, and a few $100s for a receiver. That's what this is, ADSB-in receiver. Even the oldest general aviation planes can be outfitted with ADSB-in. The gentleman behind me from who is the director of our Office of Aviation Safety, he has no electricity in his plane. This is what he has. He has ADSB-in with an iPad. In commercial aviation, American Airlines has equipped its entire fleet of more than 300 Airbus A321 aircraft with ADSB-in. I was in the cockpit to look at it. Flew to Phoenix from here. You know how much it cost them? I asked the COO, less than $50,000 per plane to retrofit. Boeing offers it on new planes. Airbus offers it on new planes. Gulfstream includes it. It is possible. The technology is available, so we can solve this problem and save lives. We should not have to be here, and we wouldn't be if the NTSB's warnings had been heeded. Exactly 17 years ago, Colgan Air Flight 3407 crashed in New York. 50 people died. In response to that accident, we issued 25 new safety recommendations to the FAA. 10 were closed, unacceptable action, because they weren't going to do anything about it. In the letters, they told us, don't ask anymore. 1 is open unacceptable. We cannot allow this to happen again. Every single one of the 50 safety recommendations we issued in response to the DCA catastrophe must be acted on immediately. The FAA has had multiple opportunities to implement NTSB recommendations. Time after time, they've declined. Now we need action, whether that's through the FAA, and they can implement a lot of the recommendations we just issued. Some of them are simple, and we can talk about that. Army, Department of War, or an act of Congress. We cannot accept having to be here years from now lamenting yet more inaction. Not only must we do this for the 67 people who died on January 29th, we must do this for all those who lost their lives in accidents that the NTSB has investigated. We must do this for their families. We must do this for future generations. Lives we can still save. Chairman Cruz, Ranking Member Cantwell, Chairman Moran, Ranking Member Duckworth, I am immensely grateful to you and the members of this committee for your robust advocacy via the Bipartisan Rotor Act. Not only do I want to thank you for your incredible leadership, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your willingness to stand up and do what's right for safety. I look forward to working with you to create a future where no family ever has to endure such tremendous loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.